when the box ignited, it capped the pipe, and then the pipe ignited with the pressure from the box and created a pipe bomb. But like it blew out all of the walls on the building. I don't remember much, like obviously, but I was welding, and then all of a sudden, boom, and then I was outside of the building. I don't know how the fire department that was like a half mile away didn't get one phone call but showed up.
They just showed up because they heard the explosion.
Wow.
My name's Padric, and I build some crazy old Toyota campers. I do engine swaps, four-wheel drive conversions, slight restorations, and then I just mob around the U.S. in my old camper and do whatever, get calls from friends to go on Humvee trips and stuff like that, and, you know, have a good time.
Here we are.
Cool. Well, yeah, I'm Nicholas. I Redline Ranch, and I do a bunch of old Toyota stuff. I do engine swaps and turbo trucks and off-roading, not campers, really. That's more his realm of the Toyota world.
I mean, you left out the part where you're building a Subaru 360 on solid axles.
I am. I also do small car stuff because I really enjoy small cars. I've got a 1969 Subaru 360, which is an old K car. It's like a miniature Volkswagen Bug, and It's on Suzuki Samurai axles and getting full off-road kit.
He showed me a picture of it, and like he's like, "Oh, I'm also working on this," and I was like, "Is that a Subaru 360?" Yeah. And he was like, "You're the first person that's ever said that."
I mean, I have probably told hundreds of people about that vehicle, and you are the first person that has seen a picture and been like, "That's a Subaru 360."
He for real talks about them all the time. Every time one's on Facebook, he's like, "Check this out! It's like the K truck but cooler."
Send them my way. I'm looking for one to make into an actual like road car.
Better yet, though, is the Subaru 360 pickup version,
the Sandbar
like the K
van truck
yeah, but
thing.
like from the same era, as old as the 360 that you have, but the pickup version.
I heard there was a van.
There is.
So the van is like the Volkswagen van, but then there's the Volkswagen van pickups that are like, look like they're converted, but they made Subaru 360 versions of those.
Subaru basically started out by being like, what is Volkswagen doing? Let's do that, but smaller and worse. Because they had 2-cylinder, 2-stroke engines in them that made like 2 horsepower.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It was a boxer 2-cylinder, 2-stroke, and they like 23 horsepower or something.
Yeah, it was sub 25 horsepower factory.
Wow, that's really wild for a car.
Yeah, that was a road car that was designed to carry 4 people, not just a 2-seater. That was a 4-passenger vehicle.
Wow, that's impressive. In this podcast, I don't want to get too much into the Humvee trip because we got a movie coming up on that soon.
We've saved the details.
I mean, everything was just so crazy and so last minute and poorly planned on my part that
and
I don't even know how you guys know Ethan or how you were just down at the drop of the hat to help finish our Humvee adventure. So how did you guys
do need a little backstory
Like,
on
did
that.
you meet Ethan in person? Or
Dude,
like, how did
I
he even
met
know
you.
who to hit up?
I met you.
No.
And I didn't get hit up. I met
In Moab.
No. You met me.
and you.
Edwin was
Really?
not there that trip.
Are you sure?
Positive.
You were with who?
Clinton and
Oh.
Asa.
So you've just,
So I might have met Clinton or Asa.
you happened to meet Ethan twice?
So the first time...
No,
the
it
Moab
wasn't a
trip-
happenstance.
Yeah,
So
no.
I'll set the scene from my end.
Okay.
We were in Moab. It was me, Clinton, and Asa. And we were doing Hell's Revenge in the Crunchy Taco. And we were mostly at the end of it. And there was a big ledge that looked like it was fun to go up. And the tires chirped a couple times and then an axle broke. And Clinton, who's mostly worked on older Toyota stuff at this point, was like, oh, cool. We'll just pull the axle stub out. It'll be fine. True on an older Toyota.
Then you lost
not
your wheel bearing.
True, yeah. Not true on a Tacoma. We pulled the axle out so that we could drive the rest of the trail in 3-wheel drive. And the wheel bearing disintegrated because the axle stub is what held it together. Oh. So we're stuck in Moab on a weekend trying to get a Toyota wheel bearing. All we needed was the wheel bearing, but like even that was like 2 days out or
And
something.
you have to press it in.
And we didn't have access to a press. I think they could get it like next day, but we didn't have access to a press. So I made a post on our Instagram and just said, and this was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah. Like
Probably
5 years ago.
5-ish years
I
ago.
think
Yeah,
5,
give or
that
take.
was
I mean, it
before-
would have been in
yeah,
October.
Before
But
my explosion.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Later.
Crazy stories. There's plenty of those.
Okay,
Anyway.
I'm ready. I'm here for it.
So I just made a post on Instagram and I was like, hey, we're in Moab. Does anyone in the area have a wheel bearing or spindle for a Tacoma? And he responded and was like, yo, I'm 2 hours away. I got the whole spindle and a spare axle for you. If you meet me halfway,
I was
like
just
$50
take
or
it.
something.
Yeah. It was pay for my gas.
Oh,
Yeah,
you're
right.
that legend.
Yeah.
So then Toyota people, they help
Yeah,
Toyota people, man.
Yeah, you got to
Can't let
stick
'em-
together.
Yeah, exactly.
I got to get you a extra sketch hoodie.
Those things are sweet.
With the Toyota on the back.
I was kind of upset that you guys released a first gen and you don't have a first gen, but like
We'll change
we're gonna
it.
have to
Clinton
change
was
that.
upset about that
Yeah,
too.
I'm glad
Yeah,
that Clinton. I was like,
Clinton saw it and he's like, "What is this?"
I know I was expecting a Tacoma with a cage. I'd accept that, but like, come on, don't.
I didn't even think about it that way because I just hit a poll on YouTube and
I
I'm
saw
like,
that.
so
I saw the poll.
what kind of off-road? Because it was like Jeep or Toyota. Toyota absolutely swept the floor on
You gotta
that
wonder
poll.
why. I mean, your subscribers are semi-smart people, at least. Like,
Speaking of good stories that aren't giving away stuff on the Humvee trip.
I
we
mean, that's
won't
not
cut
on the
short
trip.
this how we met and
Yeah.
stuff, but like we'll get to a good trip on the Humvee trip that isn't really like anything to do with the video relating to Jeep versus
Okay.
Toyota. It's great.
Yeah,
we'll save that for later.
So you brought the part, and then you guys linked back up at King of the Hammers when Ethan took the monster truck.
yeah, like
there.
2 months ago.
Yep.
Cool.
Me and Clinton have gone back and forth for. I mean,
Since then, basically, you guys because you
when
guys
we were before that, we
Oh, really?
going back
Okay.
and forth. He's
Yeah.
doing a 1UZ swap and I'm doing a 1UZ swap, so we were sharing information and just talking about.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Man, it's a small world.
Yeah.
And especially like in the like off-roading overland community, it gets even smaller. And then you get to like really passionate Toyota people and it gets even smaller. But like that is a cool community.
It really is. Yeah, it's usually super kind and friendly, and yeah, it's
especially like and the older the trucks get, like generally the cooler the people are.
The tighter knit the community gets because it's harder to find them too, and it's just a smaller proportion of them.
and it takes a special kind of stupid to daily drive something 40 years old.
which is I think this comes into why you guys were down to go to a Humvee adventure, because that's also a certain kind of stupid to want to drive a Humvee 1,500 miles.
It's like,
Precisely.
what? A car with an airbag? I've never driven one of those.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's really a lot of overlap.
I mean, so and then this time, this is how it happened. Let's see where.
Your explosion?
No. We're,
no.
we're
This
still on
is
the
how,
Humvee
This
trip.
is how this happened.
Oh, you're
I
going to read the
wound up
texts.
Yeah, it's how you ended up in North Idaho on a random
All right.
Tuesday.
I'm excited to hear this.
here. Yo, want to meet me in Vegas and road trip back to my place in a Humvee with a laughy face? We were trying to drive two of them home, but have had nothing but problems with one of them. The rest of the crew is done, and they're flying home. But I'm a stupid, stubborn person, and I want to finish it, but not alone.
That's all the context I gave. I was like, this
I'll
is
probably
just
end up
enough.
just leaving with everyone else. Just thought I'd reach out to a few crazy people I know and see if anyone wants to join me. I gave him about 4 minutes to think about his decisions truly, and then I called him and said, "All right, let's go."
Nice.
Yep.
And I think in those 4 minutes, I got a call and was like, "Hey, do you want to go to Northern Idaho?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. So and then here we are.
Here we
so
are. Yep.
it worked out.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really worked out.
We had
That
a
is
great adventure and got some amazing footage and
Yeah.
probably made a whole movie.
Called people Jeeple.
Probably.
We
Yeah.
did call people Jeeple. Yeah.
In the movie?
No, we weren't filming. We were just getting dinner, but
Yeah,
we might as well tell the story
All
now.
right. Yeah. So we're out getting dinner at Milt's.
We had just got to Moab. Right.
We
so,
rolled
yeah.
into Milt's.
with the Humvee, just got there.
Like that's the first
Needed
place we
food.
went. So we went and got food at Milt's, and we're standing in line. We haven't we're not filming. We were food,
Getting food.
and I'm standing in line, and someone behind me, this lady, she says, "Nice Comanche." And I look around. I'm like, "What? That was crazy. I wonder who she's talking to." And she's like, "Yeah, that's a nice Comanche." And I look around again. I was like, "What? What?" She's on your arm. It's a Comanche. And I have a Toyota pickup, a first-gen Toyota pickup tattooed on my arm. And I said, "Oh, you're Jeeple."
To be fair, it was Easter Jeep Safari.
It was.
This
yeah.
weekend was.
And I mean, of course, I was joking, but it was
Yeah.
just you can't call my tattooed Toyota pickup a Jeep, like
Disrespectful.
very disrespectful. But anyway, and then we were going back and forth, just kind of messing around, and then her friend decided to interject that not only could she outwheel me, the first person who was talking to me, but that her friend could outweld me. And
And they have no idea who either of us are. Not one whatsoever. Just random dudes talking to him, and then she's like, "She can outwheel you, and I can outweld you." I was like, "That's a bold claim for somebody you don't even know.
So I was like, let's go find a TIG welder and find out. And her eyes get a little big, and yeah, and
Nothing ever happened out of any of that, but it was really funny.
It was great because like I'm married, and it was adorable that they were trying to spark conversation with me because. I mean, my wife would probably kill him, but but yeah, it was funny, and it was
Frederick, how did you get in here? Did we leave the door open?
Yeah, we did.
Wide
What
open.
are you doing? Go lay down. Go to bed.
At least he's the quiet one. If Bjorn was in here, he'd be talking to us and he'd be part of the podcast right now.
Frederick's just breathing in our faces.
Yeah, he's like, I'll just get on the tripod so it shakes the entire time.
Just move the
perfect.
So that was the explosion?
No.
No.
Nope.
No, that's not unrelated.
I'm ready for
That was just a funny one.
Can we talk about the explosion?
Yeah, all right. So way back yonder in the start of when I started fabricating, I was working on a trailer for my at the time landlord. And within this trailer, I was doing a bunch of welding and plasma cutting and just modifying it and adding new safety chains and all sorts of stuff. And I'd done welded on it for 2 hours, and we were just getting ready to be finished. And I was welding on the last safety chain. And when I was welding on it, apparently I overcharged the lead acid battery that was hidden in the trailer tongue. And when that happened, it released a bunch of hydrogen, and the trailer tongue just happened to be shaped in like, it was a triangle, and the bottom was plated with 1/8 inch and the top was an 1/8 inch lid, like all steel. So it's fully steel encased box. And then in that box was a 2.5 foot piece of Schedule 40 pipe, and all of that filled with hydrogen. And then when the box ignited, it capped the pipe, and then the pipe ignited with the pressure from the box and created a pipe bomb.
Wow.
And I was
that is
standing, like,
unlucky.
Extremely unlucky, but at the same time, extremely lucky because the trailer tongue's like this. The blast pretty much all went that way. Like that side was 8 inch structural channel, and I'll show you a picture of it later. But like it looked like
I saw your post on Facebook about that the other day.
It looked like spaghetti.
Yeah,
like,
it was nuts.
And the side I was on was like bulged out, but it
Did
wasn't.
it shrapnel like a proper pipe bomb?
I sent a chain boomer through the roof.
A 3/8 inch chain boomer, not a small one, like an equipment hauling chain boomer.
And then it blew out like I have some videos, but like it blew out all of the walls on the building. Like it blew all the screws out.
Like it inflated.
Like it ripped all the screws
What
off.
did it do to your ears?
Well, I lost 70% of my left eardrum.
Yeah.
And right now I hear your voices and
Wow.
Oh, tinnitus.
Yeah, honestly,
Gnarly
like, you're
tinnitus.
pretty lucky you can hear it all, to be honest.
Or be alive.
that's the one. Yeah.
Did you have a bunch of burns too?
Yeah, for second degree burns like all over the left side of my face and my left arm. So when I get sunburn on my left arm or the left side of my face, you feel like pins and needles.
Oh, that's fun.
Yikes.
Yeah, but it wasn't third degree burns, so I don't have like scars on my butt because they took all my skin off
grafting
my
and
butt.
stuff.
So I'm really thankful. Like all things considered. And did you know that your eardrum grows back?
No.
That's pretty
everything
crazy.
I've been told my whole life is once you damage your ears, it's done.
Truth. So like my hearing did come back a little bit, but like my eardrum, I lost it. But when it grew back, it reverberated again. So it went. I don't know if you've ever like worked construction. You walk into like an insulated room, a freshly insulated room. It's super muffled, and like anyone outside of it. So that's all I heard out of my left ear because there was nothing to reverberate the noise. So it was super
like
dull.
Dull, muffled noises.
Right, exactly. Okay. So then I was driving down the back road with my wife, like, I don't know, 3 weeks later. And all of a sudden, like, I heard this on my left ear. And I, like, jumped up and I was like, oh my God, what is that? And she's like, what is what? And I was like, that noise. And I was like freaking out at this point. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, you don't hear that? And she's like, no. And I like put my hand over my ear and blocked the wind again. And I realized that it was wind noise going over my ear. And my eardrum just like had grown back perfectly and started reverberating at that perfect moment.
That's
in time.
crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah. And then for the next like 2 days, it was in and out. And then it came back. And yeah.
Wow.
I have super crappy hearing and tinnitus, but I can hear.
And you're alive.
And I'm alive. So that,
Wow.
yeah. So that's how I got blown up. It was in the paper. It said blast rattles North Durango. The neighbors thought like that their apartment building, which was like 300 or 400 yards away, their building had blown up.
Wow.
Oh,
Fire
because they saw it in the
department-
paper?
No. They came outside and they thought their building had blown up.
Oh, because it was so loud.
The fire department that was like a half mile away didn't get one phone call but showed up.
They just showed up because they heard the explosion.
Wow.
The one dude there was only one dude on shift, but he showed up in the engine like, yeah.
Wow.
Wow. So you
I've
were
always-
welding on the tongue while the explosion was concentrated in basically the storage on the tongue. So you were right next to it.
Correct. Like I was probably 2 feet away from it.
In the pictures, like that I saw the other day, there was chunks of concrete missing from the floor.
Oh yeah,
like it blew shrapnel and took out like deep gouges out of the floor.
It was crazy. Like, so I don't remember much, like obviously, but I was welding, and then all of a sudden, boom, and then I was outside of the building. Like I don't know if I got thrown back or what.
Oh, wow.
But like I was outside of the building, and I was like, I was so worried that like I don't know why I was like I felt like I did something wrong and the cops were gonna come. So I was like, I don't know. I was like, shut it down. I
just died. I must be in trouble.
My buddy was there. I was all shut it down. So I'm like shutting the garage bays, thinking that there's like a plume of smoke.
Are you just in shock? So you don't realize how burnt you are?
So at first I was like, am I all good? And he's like, yeah. I was like, I felt my face. I was like, are you sure? Don't lie to me. Am I all good? And he's like, yeah. And I'm like screaming at him because I can barely hear anything. And there's smoke just pluming out of the shop. And I'm looking and like the shop's visibly like messed up. And I was like, oh my God. It's just like everything is collapsing in on my head. And obviously I just been blown up. And
so you were with another guy.
Yeah. And so when everyone got there, the police, paramedics, etc. Like the paramedic showed up. She's like, "Let me," and I was like, "Don't touch me." And she's like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "I don't have insurance. Don't touch me."
That's like Will's stories all start that way.
I was like, "Do not." And she's like, "No." She's like, "I will not do anything that will cost you a dime." I was like, "If you promise." And she's like, "Yeah." So she's like going over me, and I'm like yelling at her because I can't hear anything. And she's like, "No, it's okay, it's okay." And then she's like, "Can I look in your ear?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "Which one?" I was like, "This one for sure." And she looks in. She's like, "Ugh." I was like, "What do you mean?" she says, "I don't know." And I was like, no, it doesn't work that way. You got to tell me what's going on. And she's like, "Well, you need to see a doctor." And I was like, "Well, I'm sure," but like, she's like, I don't know. And then also when I went to the ear doctor, it was like and then he was like, "Hey, everybody, come look at this." And like the whole, because they'd never, little town, you don't see explosion stuff like that. So everybody needs to come look at this. And yeah, everyone looked at it. And then when it grew back, they actually had to pull a scab off of it.
Oh, gross.
Sounds painful.
So they went in there with these super long tweezers and grabbed on, like it was like a pick at first, and they picked it out and like boop, and it felt like my head was gonna like implode. It was like the
terrible.
Reverse pressure. Yeah, it was awful. And then the first time, poop, they like got a little corner off, and they went in there with tweezers and ripped it off. It was super uncomfortable.
That sounds super uncomfortable.
But yeah, so not only can your eardrum grow back, but it grows back with a scab that's gotta go.
Wow.
Facts you learn. Things you didn't know you needed to know.
But yeah, that's the explosion.
Well, the explosion story went way harder than I could have possibly imagined. But how's your buddy then who was with you?
He was in like the other bay. So I was in my landlord's bay, and he was, I'm sure his ears weren't the best, but I actually don't talk to him anymore, so I wouldn't know. But completely separate situation. He's a good guy, but
it's crazy because I've heard that batteries can explode, but I never really believed it.
It's the hydrogen that'll really get you.
Yeah.
An actual hydrogen pipe bomb is what we're talking about.
Yeah. And that is a really unique situation because usually if they have room to off gas,
it'd just be like,
it'd go whoosh and you'd be fine.
Relatively.
Yeah,
sure.
right.
But yeah,
like
it wouldn't
boof.
Yeah.
Blow the doors off your shop.
And then like I have the tongue of the trailer still, like, because I actually got conned into fixing the trailer like it was my fault.
What?
Yeah, I fixed the trailer. So
this is a client job.
No, this was my landlord. He kept my security deposit too.
What? What a jerk.
Yeah.
Oh man!
Wow.
Yeah.
And
I'm not gonna name names because that's not cool. But yeah, it was. I was like, whatever. It's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
I blew the shop up. I guess I should have known better. How dare I?
The trailer was hooked up to a Land Cruiser that also got like 4 windows blown out and the windshield broke out.
I forgot it blew out the windows of the Land Cruiser and wrinkled the sheet metal in the rear quarters.
Oh, yep.
It moved the sheet metal.
This seems like your landlord's fault. He should have had insurance.
hindsight is 2020, but I was young and dumb.
I'd say
But
we
like,
were
I
really
so
young at the
could have
time.
I'd be living a much different life had I acted upon that situation differently. But it's cool. That's not cool, and I'm doing just fine. So
No, I mean, to live to tell the tale is the part that really matters.
for the next 2 weeks, you just wake up every day like, wow, that's pretty neat. Like I'm alive.
Is that how long it lasted? About 2 weeks, then you're back to.
Well, yeah. So I was like, oh, I'll never grind like that. Working 7 days a week, ignoring my wife and my dogs, da 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 da. And then like 2 weeks ago, I was like, dang it, it's been 5 years and I'm still grinding. But I'm like, I've come so far. I'm not at all disappointed in the grind. But yeah, definitely just remember that you could die tomorrow, and like
It's true.
spend time with those that matter. But yeah, anyway, that's how I got blown up and lived to tell the tale. So.
Dang.
You got any stories that can come close to that?
I do not
Nicholas?
have any. I got blown up stories.
It doesn't have to be a blown up story.
You rolled your truck.
Oh God!
And then tried to drive it home and they wouldn't let you.
For this. Okay, so I at the time was going back and forth between Durango, Colorado, and Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's about a 4-hour drive. I was going back and forth all of the time. I was coming up from Albuquerque. I was 5 minutes from the town of Durango. I mean, maybe 5 full minutes. And I was doing about 65 on the highway. I veered off the right side, and there was a real steep, like, bar ditch next to it, and it sucked my tire in.
Like a 10-inch one, like a big one.
Yeah, just like a pretty much curb, but it was dirt road.
Where there's no shoulder, before they were working on the road, so there was no shoulder. They were maintaining it and just raised it, yeah.
So I catch that, and I'm trying to get back on the road, and I'm like 17 at the time, not a very good driver, we'll say. And I jump out of the road, and it throws me kind of sideways. And mind you, I'm doing 65 or so on a highway. I go sideways at about 65 for a couple hundred yards, and I'm fine. I'm skidding sideways on the pavement in a lifted Tacoma, and I was like, okay, we're doing good. I get towards the end of the road, and I like brace because I'm like, I'm going to hit these trees. It's not going to be good. I hit the dirt on the other side of the road, and all of a sudden I just see crazy stuff in the windshield, and I'm like, what just happened? And I land, and I'm like, well, that was really crazy. And I look up, and the windshield is just shattered, and I'm like, oh crap. And I look to my right, and the whole passenger side of the single cab, like 90s Tacoma, is flattened below this passenger headrest. And I realized right then that I was just upside down, and kind of look around, and I'm like, oh God. First thing I do is I turn the truck off, and I look around. I'm like, okay, I'm okay. I had my 70-pound German Shepherd dog in the front seat with me of the single cab truck. I look, she's okay. She's obviously very freaked out. I turn the truck off. I turn it back on. I'm like, all right, truck still runs. Step 1, put it in 4-wheel drive. Oh, dang, my hubs aren't locked. I get out. There's a dude in a full-sized Ford pickup pulled over. I'm like, hey, do you have a tow strap? Can you pull me out? And he looks at me. He's like, the cops are on their way. And I was like, no, like just hook a tow strap up to me. I'm fine. The truck still runs. I'm doing great.
Oh, I thought you were like a fugitive, dude.
He probably did. I'm like 17. I'm like, please don't get the cops involved. I can't afford a ticket. Like, freaking out. And I put it in 4-wheel drive, put it in 4-low. I can't pull it out. And I call him. The cops show up, and they're like, hey, what's going on? I was sober. It was like 9 in the morning. I had started driving super early trying to get to work that day.
You were under 18, weren't you?
I was under 18.
I was like your legal guardian of Durango.
Well, technically, I had been emancipated according to Durango.
That was the second time I had to go deal with you and the cops.
Yeah. The other one was
you are welcome that I raised such a good kid.
You obviously didn't.
Dang it. I tried. I failed. It's okay.
But yeah, the cop, so he shows up with a trailer. I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at. I like send him my location. I didn't really know where I was. I was like, I'm on this highway south of Durango. And he's like, okay. I thought I was like 10 miles away. I was about a mile from city limits. And I was, that one hit hard. I was like, really? I was so close.
Did you get a ticket?
I got a careless driving ticket. Yeah. Yep. That one was rough. It was okay, but he pulled me out. Truck pulls out. I get it driving. He's got a trailer. I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I can just drive it back to the shop. It was only like a 15, 20-minute drive. And the cop's like, well, okay. Like, it's like the windshield smashed, but like, it looks like you can see out of it. And then he sees that the seatbelt's kind of dangling out. And he's like, oh, well, the seatbelt's locked out. You can't drive it. And that was his reasoning, was that the seatbelt was locked out, so it was no longer a safe vehicle. And I was like,
After the roof's caved in.
yeah, I was like,
It's the seatbelt that did it for you.
There's probably no law about caved in roofs.
I think that was what it was. He was probably sitting there. He's like, I guess there's nothing saying you can't.
That's what they do. They sit there and they think of a law why you can't. Because if there isn't one, then they can't tell you what to do.
Exactly.
And I guess there's no roof law.
No.
Well, I mean, convertibles, you know.
Colorado is very lenient with their vehicle laws too. They're not super strict.
Yeah, especially our part of Colorado. You can basically drive like
anything. Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about not strict vehicle laws, North Idaho is pretty much as Idaho in general is pretty much as unstrict as it gets.
Yeah.
We don't even have any kind of emissions laws.
We have no emissions laws in my county, even though all my vehicles are totally EPA compliant to all standards of any emission laws in the United States.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I forgot. Colorado is like by county, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure
emissions.
is.
It's like some counties do it, some don't.
I'm actually
So
I'm in Northwest New Mexico.
Oh, that's
actually,
right.
But
That's
yeah,
right.
so they basically call it like the Wild West where I'm at. I'm surprised we have permitting laws. But we do. But yeah, apparently not around here,
if you're out of city limits, you don't need.
Yeah.
All you need is a location permit
which is super nice.
and a plumbing and electric permit.
Yeah.
But
They want to make
that's
sure
it.
you're not going to burn yourself down.
They want to make sure you're not going to contaminate the water, burn yourself down, or build in a swamp,
I mean,
or build on your neighbor's property.
these are all really
Yeah,
valuable
these are
things.
good things.
Yep,
These
those are
good
important.
things. Yeah, you really can't mess with the water, especially we're at the beginning of the watershed still.
For like a lot of people.
Kind of starts in Montana near Yellowstone and works all the way down in like, is it 80% of the food we eat is from California, which is from that watershed? Like,
Columbia River flows down into.
we got to take care of our water around here for
Absolutely.
sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the weird car stuff, I mean, I don't know. I probably err way more on the reckless, bad for the environment side than most people would. But it's like, I just kind of think like people should do what they got to do.
I just think if we're there's so many other places that we could. You know what? We'll just avoid this one. That's not. We'll just
Be a
not.
respectful person and do your part.
Live and let live and do as much as you can.
Don't
for
be
the
a jerk.
environment.
Yeah,
Exactly.
So what was your first run-in with the police then, Nicholas?
Oh, this misunderstanding.
Yeah, it was genuinely like a misfiled paperwork thing. I missed a court date, and I actually didn't miss the court date, but everything got so misconstrued, and then I was living in Colorado, and the court date was in New Mexico. So I got pulled over in Colorado for like 8 or 10. I was on my way to work, and I got pulled over, and I genuinely was like, whatever, I deserve this ticket. And all of a sudden they're like, did you know that you have a warrant out for your arrest in a different state? And I was like, no, I do not. And they were like, yes, you do.
Dude, that's hard. You got, what's that called? Like cross state lines? That's more than just like a local arrest.
Oh yeah, like
expedited.
Yeah, indicted.
What's that word?
I don't know. Never had it happen to anyone I know. So
Yeah, I don't know. They didn't end up moving me. It got figured out before. Like I ended up spending like one night in jail, but they ended up figuring everything out, and it was all just a misfiled paperwork, and it just screwed me.
Wow, all the way to a night in jail. That's pretty serious misfiling.
I know.
It was they were
felt
like, you're
bad
running
for him.
away, and I'm like, I no, I'm not. You guys. Like, this is my address. My home address is out of state. I'm sorry that this happened in New Mexico, but like, I live in Colorado. I didn't run away.
But yeah, it was nothing he did wrong other than going 8 over.
Dang. We don't have Will on the podcast to swap arrested stories. But I am a criminal now. I have a little electric Walmart bike that I souped up, but no one...
You can't tell. It looks like a kid's Walmart electric.
Yeah, like the little
bike.
dirt bikes they sell at Walmart. You've probably seen them.
Yeah.
Yeah, and normally I'm doing like over the speed limit wheelies around town, but this particular time I was just riding on the bike path. I was getting passed by bikes. I was playing Pokemon Go, so I was actually having to go slow enough to where the Pokemon still show up. And this cop just whips onto the bike path, and he's like, license and registration. And I like looked down and I was like, I'll give you my license, but this is like a toy little Walmart bike. He was like, doesn't matter, license and registration. And I was like, are you serious, man? I was like, okay. And so I gave him my, I have like insurance on my car. And he's like, but this isn't insured. It doesn't have a VIN number. And I was like, yeah. And I was like, I don't know. I was like, I'm going the speed limit and stuff. But he wrote me a ticket for driving a vehicle on the sidewalk.
What?
And so now it actually hurt my driving record. And I had a perfect driving record up until this point, surprisingly, but just one speeding ticket in my drift car that's already off my license, but is actually on like my record now is driving a vehicle. I'm looking into it. I'm going to try, but it's just like so much time. I don't know if it's worth it. And the electric bike laws and e-bike laws, and I mean, at the end of the day, the bike path I was on did have signs that say no motor vehicles.
And also the bike is not what it looks like.
What is the wattage? Is it considered an e-bike where it's at? Or is
it's like
mini dirt
well,
bike?
what
like
it was
kilowatts.
Yeah.
Like
it's
7
kilowatts. And the bike is 500 watts
So it
from the
sounds
factory,
like-
but it's currently
It's 6.9 kilowatts
I
currently,
think
right?
if I had pedals, I'd be fine. I don't know.
yeah.
I was in
Did he take pictures?
No, he had like a camera thing on his vest.
Just go buy another one from Walmart and be like, look, this is 500 watts.
Yeah.
I am just saying.
And if I was doing wheelies and being like an idiot like I normally am, I get it. But in this time, and he told me.
He actually kind of wants to be arrested for that.
I do. But I want to be stunting.
It's the only person I've ever known that wants to be arrested.
Could you imagine if
Do you know how much it sucks to spend a night in jail?
I don't. But like,
Of course not.
They don't turn the lights off.
could you imagine if you died without knowing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm on my way there.
I would not have complained.
I mean, so far, yeah.
We'll just because
Closest
Will's
I've
so
got is
hard to get a
handcuffs, but-
serious answer out of. But every time I'm like, why is jail so bad? He's like, they make you eat porridge with an egg on top.
Pretty much. The food sucks. The people suck. The people there are just degenerate. That's the worst part. Is like if you are there for not being a complete degenerate, you're just around a bunch of degenerates. Like
So it's more like the
Environment.
peers and the environment.
Yeah, it's just like
And you're probably treated very poorly, too. Like, you're treated as if you did something extremely wrong.
Yeah.
Even
No
if
matter
what you
what.
did was, like, medium wrong or
even-
not wrong
like,
at all.
Like just
The person next to you could be a very violent criminal. Like I mean, there's so many different options, or a speeder, I guess.
But think of this, like I come
Or someone
in-
who wheelies a little electric bike.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you could have Will, Edwin, or like a killer.
but think of me in handcuffs getting in there, and I'm like, "What are you in for?" And the guy's like, "Oh, I'm a violent criminal." And then they're like, "What are you in for?" I'm like, "You know those little dirt bikes at Walmart?" And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I was doing a wheelie on 60 miles an hour on a sidewalk in one of those." And he's like, "What?"
And then that dude who is a violent criminal, he's like, I know what's for lunch tomorrow.
Yeah. And maybe it sounds like more of a fun fantasy in my head. And then like if people are like, then we're like, we're telling stories like, oh yeah, like Will has his stories or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, I got arrested too for wheeling a little bike. It's kind of funny.
It is. No,
It is.
I'll say.
I have to say I've never heard someone say that they were excited to know what inside jail looked like.
I just don't know. I'm a curious
Edwin's
person.
just built different.
I also like to learn, like you can't tell me like, oh, that's dangerous. Like kind of, what do they call that when you have
Trial
to figure it
by
out for
fire.
yourself?
yeah. I mean, you just have to, yeah.
It's that like
Yeah.
mess around and find out scale that. they're-
Yeah, mine's pretty high.
Yeah.
And Ethan's is like,
very high.
We
High.
averagely ours are probably average for our type. We've determined that we're very similar.
Very similar.
on that like
On the
willingness
scale.
to
Just the full send.
Which is why they ended up being the perfect people to call for the Humvee
yeah,
trip.
that's when I realized just how different our scales were. Well, I mean, you guys will see the movie when it comes out, but there's a point in the Humvee trip where Ethan's scale surpassed Will, who, people who listen to the podcast know how crazy Will is. Steven, who is actually probably the safest of all of us, but
By far, yeah.
he's still done some gnarly stuff and a lot of that with us.
Yeah.
And me. And that is when I realized in a moment how different our scales were. Because normally most of the things we do are within my scale.
Yeah. I'd like to point out, and for Will's case, I don't know if he just said this because he thought it's what I wanted to hear, but also he was mostly like super stressed out about having to move his apartment. And like he at least told me that he would have wanted to continue the trip if he hadn't had that time crunch. And maybe he lied to me, and maybe he told you guys something totally different. But
That's the smoke he was blowing.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know. Like, I was genuinely I wanted to make sure people were not being miserable.
He
But
I don't
also
want to
did
put
have-
words in
Yeah.
his mouth, but he was scared.
Well, and he had a serious obligation. He was moving.
he did.
entire
No,
life.
that's what I was
Yeah,
saying. Like,
yeah.
he had a serious obligation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I was saying. I was giving him maybe a little bit of credit for, like, he wasn't scared,
Will's
but he...
interesting. I mean, if you to go on an open-ended road trip in a notoriously unreliable vehicle, knowing that you need to move your apartment without telling anyone else you need to move your apartment. I mean, Will's built a little different.
Yeah. None of us knew until they were about, like, until the point where the decision was made. No one knew that Will had to do anything that week.
Is it the song? It's like Nobody Cares When You're 23.
Is that a song?
I think so.
Probably.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Nick is 23.
I
Yeah.
definitely care.
You and Will are about as different as two 23-year-old people could be, I think. No, not quite.
I was
but
gonna say,
like,
yeah, we're so similar. We got Subarus
Exactly.
and Toyotas. And
right. Like, that's what I mean.
Swindles.
Like, if you like,
He
for
swindles Subarus too.
Yeah. For two people who are into the same stuff and the same age, your personalities are just like as different as they could be.
It's also funny. I also have ridden motorcycles and bikes my entire life too.
Yeah.
Yeah, nope, very, very similar, but also just very, very
Yeah,
not.
exactly.
Well, like Will has like a nice turbo WRX, and he like buys like crappy Subaru and like makes them nicer, right? And then Will has like that like sport bike, you know, the Gixxer 1000, and he has like a Sportster Harley Davidson. So like, they are built differently.
Very different.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
yeah.
Yep.
If I got on a street bike like Will does, there's a good chance I wouldn't be here right now.
That's why I've never owned one.
Yeah.
I'm not responsible enough to be responsible on a bike. I'm just responsible enough to not buy one.
right.
That's why I think I'm responsible enough for a Honda Grom.
I agree. I just got a 150 CRF because
Really?
it's the perfect size to not make myself feel like I'm gonna kill myself.
And then the only way you could get arrested if you're doing stunts, which it's easy to not do stunts where the cops are.
Exactly.
like look where we live. Yeah, we live
Yeah.
in that primo zone for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
So-
you know, like what parking lots to go to where you could do some stunts, and then as long as you're not being a total idiot on the street, you probably won't get arrested.
Yep. And it's the same way with cars too. There's just a lot of people that have that. They don't see the line of where it's appropriate and not appropriate to be hooning around.
Right.
Yeah, yeah, and everyone has a different risk tolerance, but like, I think there's responsible ways to hoon.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm just a Nancy when it comes to that. I'm always like, I'm not going to jail. You almost go to jail once, and for me, I was like, I'm shook. No, thank you.
What's your almost go to jail?
So
You don't have to tell
no,
it if
no.
you don't
I mean,
want to.
we'll go with this one. It's not too bad. So I was at a car meet, and I mean, this was a while ago, and it was my buddy at the time had come up and hung out with me for a weekend, and he bought a Subaru, another swindly Subaru guy. Okay. And he had come up in his like slam 240 with an SR20. So it's like full drift car. It's got a wide body on it. It was a pretty cool car. And he came up in that, and he bought a Subaru, and he's driving it back down to New Mexico. And I was in Durango at the time. He's driving it back down to New Mexico so he could flip it. Then he's going to come up and pick up his 240. So he like left me his 240 to borrow. So
With permission for you to drive it.
absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. no,
Just clarifying.
yeah.
This
no,
is
there was-
also a built engine
yeah,
turbo.
it's like
SR, not
350
just-
wheel or 350 wheel, like turbo. Total crap box, like rattled, and it was super scary. But anyway, so I drove it a little bit, but small town Durango, like you can't really, like there is nowhere in that small town to drive some car like that. And it's also like February.
It was
like
winter.
early spring or late winter, so it was cold still. So I go up to the ski shop and I like take a couple of my friends around and do a couple donuts way up there. And other than that, nothing. Then there was a car meet that weekend at my buddy's shop in Farmington, which is like 45 minutes south of where I was. So I go down there in the car meet, and like no one sees a drift car like that around those parts. So like everyone was just like eyes on that and like, oh, this is such a sick car. And one of the kids that was like renting the shop and was like there, he's like, dude, this thing is crazy. Like they were so pumped on it. And I just felt like, my buddy just loaned it to me. Like no big deal, just like fronting all hard. And anyway, long story short, by the end of it, the people who were putting on the car show, they were like, tickets for a ride. And I was like, okay. So I took the one for a ride, and I like shot out the gate kind of sideways onto like a street. And it was probably a private street. Probably. And we just zoom up the street, and then I zoom on the highway a little bit, just right up to the speed limit. Just a really loud car. So, the speed limit was 60, so I might have hit 62. And we come back, and I, park the car. And then the other guy, the other renter of the shop, oh, dude, no, you got to take me. And I'm like, all right. He's like, and send it. So I sent it just a little harder, and some rev limiters were had and turbo noises and all the things. And we get back, and by the time we're getting back and he's getting out of the car, we hear, yo, on the scanner, red 240, they're looking for a red 240. So
oh, it was red?
Yeah,
man.
with a white over fenders. Yeah. So anyway, all of a sudden my heart drops. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna get my friend's car impounded and I'm going to jail. I was like, I'm in Farmington's a little bigger of a town, but where am I going to go with a red 240? I have to drive 45 minutes to Durango. I was like, no, this is bad. This is bad. So I actually hid the car in their shop overnight. And he left that car there for 3 weeks. And that next day he's like, hey, I'm on my way to come get my car. And I was like, I hadn't told him anything yet. Yeah. And I was like, well, it's in Farmington. What do you mean? Yeah. Anyway, nothing happened and I didn't go to jail. But yeah, that was the story of how I almost got my friend's car impounded and went to jail.
Gotcha.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean,
that's a pretty happy ending, honestly.
Solid.
It could have been way worse, but I didn't go to jail. But apparently I was being wanted on the police scanner, which is close enough for me. I was like, that's good. I don't know, no story of yep, spent the weekend. And then it was Friday night, so I'd have gotten out Monday morning.
Oh, is that how it works? That's a real thing? Not just in the movies?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, no, yeah, dude. You go to jail on Friday night. You don't get out till Monday.
Also, you might notice all three of our voices sounding a little cracked right now. That's 4 days of... I just noticed it. Thought it was funny because
shouting.
4 days of screaming in the Humvee to hear each other.
Over hearing protection that we have.
Yeah, wearing hearing protection. What? And this is a little side note.
Just a little more damage to the ears. It's explosion started it off. I
was
add another 3%.
He asked me 2 hours in or 3 hours in. He's like, "Yo, I have hearing protection." Because he noticed I had my hood on.
He had earbuds the day before, a noise canceling earbuds.
Oh,
and I was like, okay, cool. And then the next day he was driving for a bit, and I was like, you want earplugs? I got some.
I was so thankful. But yeah, my ears are extra ringy today. Yeah,
I guess Nicholas is too young to experience hearing loss yet because he declined earplugs the 16 times I offered him.
I get real bad migraines with earplugs in for long periods of time.
That's fair.
So for me, I'd rather have the loud noise than the migraine and then the loud noise because then it's just going to be horrible.
Yeah, loud noise with a migraine's terrible.
Yeah.
Ethan and I are kind of Will's adopted fathers at this point. We're always trying to get him to do the right thing. And his straight piped, what was the car he hit the deer in?
The bike. His CBR 600.
It was so loud.
Dude, it was...
I could hear him, if he came to my house, after here or whatever, I could hear him from actually a mile away.
No, I could hear him for way more than that here. When he left here, because he'd get on the highway and just whoop, because you'd hear him go down the straight, and I could hear him shift up, and then downshift. And then 5 minutes would go by as he's going down the canyon, and I could hear him again. And if 5 minutes goes, it's only 5 miles down to the end of the windy bit of the road.
And he wasn't going the speed limit.
Exactly. So if it's 5 minutes, that's 10 miles. I don't know.
Yeah.
We won't do the math.
It's a lot. It's a lot of miles away that you could hear that bike.
Yeah. And he kept saying, he was like, oh yeah, working in the garage with Ethan is building my ears a little different. And he okay, so a couple minutes of the grinder here and there. He lives super far away from here.
He's an hour and
driving
a half,
an hour and a half.
And rides a bike in every day?
He
straight
did
pipe
at the time.
bike.
It was basically straight pipe CBR 600.
So he kept trying to convince me that he was having early hearing loss because of working with us in the shop.
Which we always remind him to wear earplugs, and he just doesn't.
Yeah, constantly. And sometimes if he's with the grinder, I'll just put the moral of the story is, I was like, Will, your bike is so much louder than anything in this garage, and you listen to it for 3 hours a day. He's like, oh yeah, it sounds so nice, man, and it keeps the cars away from me and stuff. And I was like, I just don't know what to do some days.
Yeah, I wear earplugs when I go ride my 450 because it's loud.
It's not worth it.
No, not at all. And so actually, fun fact is when I was at that hearing doctor, they were like, "This your hearing loss isn't directly corresponding like an explosion. What do you do for work?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm like a mechanic right now, grinders." And I'm like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Yeah, how long have you been doing that?" I was like, "Well, only like 2 years." They're like, "No, what else did you do?" I was like, "Well, I was a carpenter." They're like, "Oh, skill saws, table saws, all
nail
that."
guns,
Yep,
yeah, all of it.
Yep. They're like, "Yeah, you have as much hearing loss from that as you do from getting blown up and losing 70% of your
eardrum."
Really?
So
Because with hearing things, it's generally like the time, like a short duration doesn't do nearly as much damage as a long duration.
right,
as far as I
obviously,
understand it.
yeah, exactly. So
The
years
exposed long-term exposure is what really does the damage.
Absolutely.
So Will riding the bike for 2 hours a day.
yeah.
Wow, this podcast ended up being a public service announcement.
It really is.
Wear
It's just
earplugs.
wear ear protection.
Watch your battery situation before you weld.
Disconnect batteries before you weld on anything.
Don't tow a Humvee with an aluminum tow bar.
Don't do that.
Don't roll your Tacoma when you
Don't roll your Tacoma.
Lots of don'ts.
Or just like
Buy a Humvee and road trip it across the country with your friends.
That was a plus.
Maybe
But maybe check all the fluids and like
mechanically
maybe
inclined.
get new tires. I mean, we didn't have any tire problems, but like
We got some premium tires.
If you
dude.
buy a Humvee and road trip it across the country, it's really a bad idea to do it on the original tires. We got lucky.
At least have a support.
The oldest tire was 2003, and all things considered, that was new for military tires.
Yeah.
The newest one was 2019.
Yeah, one of the tires
and
was brand new.
The other two are like only 10 years old. Yeah.
So they're all barely out of like what a tire store would service.
Yeah, so they were relatively good for.
Yeah. If you buy like a 1989 M998, you could have tires from 1989. Don't do that. I'm just saying, it was a really fun trip, but like probably be smarter than me.
It could have been
I
catastrophic.
think that's the gist of all of our videos. This is a really good time, but you should probably do it safer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. That's just the moral of my life. If this could have been done safer, it would have taken an extra 3 minutes, and I would not have been quite as satisfied. But
Yeah. Turns out Humvees make really great overland vehicles, though.
10 out of 10.
A soft top roof tent fits perfectly in the bed of one. Like there's a great spot to drill holes to bolt it.
and it looks amazing.
It looks awesome.
Amazing. And it looks more unique, too.
Yeah. And you can put a cot inside the Humvee. You could have someone sleeping in there and still drive the Humvee. You could have 4 passengers plus a person sleeping on a cot. It wouldn't be safe. I'm not saying you should do that. But like space-wise, you can... That's how big they are.
You technically don't have to register them either, because we didn't get one look.
Don't give people that advice.
Yeah, you know
we
how,
didn't say that.
People on podcasts.
I do what you as will. It's legal in whatever state, none, but you have to register your Humvee. But if you don't, there's a high likelihood you're.
We passed a lot of cops, and none of them even cared at all.
We were legal because we were just driving it home with a bill of sale. That's legal.
Yes, right. It is. Yeah, within a certain time period. And, all that, and it was insured.
Yeah.
To be fair, don't drive uninsured vehicles. That's really irresponsible.
They will impound your car, put you in jail, and like that's just not cool.
That's for real.
Yeah, and also it's irresponsible for the other people.
I was like,
So
it's
don't do
not
that.
cool. Yeah, don't hit someone without insurance. That's really not
But
cool.
anyway, yeah, it was super inconspicuous. No one even.
Yeah, no one cared.
Yeah, it was, we got a lot of looks.
Yeah.
For sure. A lot of disbelief, like what dummies.
Especially with the tent. That must have changed the way people were looking at you.
It just suited it so well. I don't think it was looked at much different.
Honestly,
at all.
no. It fits so perfectly. It just looks like it's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
It does look like it's meant for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so-
Like even the length, is it down to like less than an inch?
It is
pretty much.
perfect.
It's within the inch. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we have an old roof tent that's like been flipped over on a trailer.
Yeah, we could probably fix
We just
that
put it on
up.
there for aesthetics, honestly.
Yeah.
Like it just looks so cool. We just got to bolt it on there.
It was a really nice tonneau cover. Everything in the bed stayed dry,
Exactly.
even through that downpour.
It was a It was
That's
and it made for
actually-
less wind in the cab of the Humvee because it's all soft top. Like overall, it was just an improvement.
You guys really just dialed it in.
We did.
Bam. Can't believe that worked out so well.
I know. Well, and believe it or not, so I mounted that rooftop tent on that red pickup 2 days before I did this, not knowing that
That you
was
were
going to
gonna
be
do
a
it?
thing. Yeah, I was
Perfect.
mounting it for completely other reasons. I was planning on taking that truck for a road trip somewhere else, and then it just happened to be the only tent I had, so it came with.
Well, how we destroyed our tent is actually a story we've never told on the podcast.
True, it happened years before we started the podcast.
Yeah, that's a good one.
The grilling.
Yeah.
The what?
I'm excited.
Yeah.
You guys might have seen the video. So there's that. But
It was our first Power Wheels Overland video.
I mean, we only did one.
Man, we really ought to do another
I know.
one of
Oh, when you
those.
built the trailer?
Yeah,
I
built
didn't watch it, but I saw.
Yeah,
the
so
thumbnail.
Yeah.
I took a Harbor Freight trailer that we just had laying around. It wasn't even actually mine; it was my friend's. But like he hadn't used it in years, and whatever. It was
It's
crappy.
gone now.
Yeah, it's still out there. It's not functional, but it's still out there.
Donate
so
to the cause.
we took that and built it for an overland trailer to tow behind the Colonel, our big KTM 990 Power Wheels 4-wheel drive, and that was largely. It was pretty new. Like we just finished that build, and then we'd driven it around a few times and stuff, and we built the trailer to go behind it. And aesthetics are very important for these things. When you're filming them, things have to look right. So I put old tires off of the Barbie Jeep on the trailer because they looked better and fit the scale of it. But they're snowblower tires.
Yeah.
And they're like not tall. They're much shorter than the original tires. They're wider and better off-road, but they're small.
And we stretched them out on wheels, like stretched.
Yeah, they were stretched.
Yeah, the whole
It
rim
looked
was exposed.
real cool.
I bet it did.
And it towed real nice until we got to the big rocks. And then the axle just kept getting hammered by rocks because we were driving over a bunch of rocks. Like, it was still just a road you could drive anything with decent clearance on. But the rocks were just bashing that axle. So they bashed it into like this nice U shape. You get the idea. Taking a lot of impacts. Skip a little while of like not making it up a hill. The trailer got towed up the hill by the biggest Power Wheels on the trip. Mike from Motomule, his Gravedigger, because that thing has Samurai axle in the front and a Dana 44 that's narrowed in the back. It's huge.
Which is sick.
Yeah.
That is super sick.
So he dragged it up the rest of the hill, and even his was struggling with it because it kept hooking big rocks and like just it brutalized it up that hill.
It was like a road grader at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. And this was a very steep hill. Like at this point, not a road you could drive on unless you have a pretty capable, like not a full on like Moab trail, but you need an off-road, something that's at least sort of built to get up it. And
it's loose, dry, sandy dirt.
Yeah, exactly. In between. So we got to the top with both of the tires like flat, or one of them might have still had air. I patched up the tire and got it to sort of hold air, and we spent the night up there. And the next day, the clutch also burnt out in the Colonel because it was a recluse clutch, and it was great. I mean, it's made for a bike that weighs 400 pounds, not a machine that weighs 7 plus a trailer that weighs like 5 towing up a hill.
Yeah.
That much.
Probably. We had a lot of supplies, and so we had we had 2 Power Wheels of ours. So just our crew. We had 2 Power Wheels plus a 4-wheeler. No, plus 2 4-wheelers. We had 2 Power Wheels and 2 ATVs to get all of us up there for filming and everything. And all of the gear for 4 people was on one overland trailer with a full-size roof tent on it behind the Power Wheels. So we had like 5 gallons of water, 10 gallons of fuel, a cooler full of stuff and food, and just too much stuff.
And it was like a
typical overland style.
Double decker for people listening. It's like the trailer, room for all of the stuff, the coolers, the water, and 2 feet, and then the beginning of the roof tent.
Yeah.
All of those.
Yeah. So it's probably
an
it's basically a perfectly square. It was 4 feet square and probably about 4 feet tall by the time you get to the top of the roof tent.
High lift strapped to the side
full
of it.
size high lift.
Shovels.
This sounds like that production for the Bronco. This sounds like a very big high-end production for some Power Wheels. I'm just saying.
It was a lot, yeah. But it's all about making it look ridiculous. Like
Absolutely.
In this case, the whole point was like it's overbuilt, over-prepared because we're doing a Power Wheels overland trip.
And it was our biggest production ever.
Yeah.
It was our first time having Steven coming with us. He didn't work for us yet. He just came for fun. And he was going to shoot photos. And then Sam was with us, and we invited the other people with Power Wheels.
Yeah, with 3 other people that brought Power Wheels.
And we had all the cameras and GoPros on everybody.
Yeah.
Like, it was our first big multi-camera production, really.
Yeah. Well, when they're done watching this, they should go watch that if they have.
It was a really good
I'm
video.
going to go watch it.
It was our pinned video on the channel for like a solid year after that. Like, that was like, we are most proud of this. Bam.
It was one of those trips, unlike the Humvee trip. Well, it was much like the beginning of the Humvee trip, where everything just went wrong over and over and over again. Anyway, next day we go down the hill, and so we just had Mike tow the trailer with his big one because it was no problem. Like it wasn't even going to slow him down, and we were just trying to eke the last little bit of clutch out so we could make it down the hill to get back to the trailers and the trucks. And so, Mike was towing the trailer. We were probably going, I don't know, maybe 20, 25 miles an hour, not super fast. But I don't know. I don't know how fast his goes. Like, it might. I don't know what his top speed is. It was probably close to his top speed, whatever that is. It's maybe 30 top speed. I don't know. But anyway, the trailer tongue had taken so much abuse because they're bolted together. You know, how they're like just like it's sort of like a C channel inside of a C channel, and then just a couple of bolts. Yep. The tongue sheared off while he was driving at whatever full speed was, and the trailer just cartwheeled down the road, end over end. Boom, 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 boom.
Yeah. I'd say,
and I was like, we were caravanning. I was like this close, like just a couple feet away in the quad. And so it happened. And luckily it went forward with the momentum. Cause like I hit the brakes, but I was as loose dirt. I like slid for a while and I was like almost running over a tumbling trailer. And it was already, we were on our way home. We were doing the right thing. We're like, okay, we're going to do this. Like we're planning more days.
Yeah, it was going to be a 2-night.
Everything was not going well. So we're like, all right, we'll get down to this road and take the flat road straight back to the truck. And then all of a sudden it's just do.
Although, you know, shout out to Yeti coolers and Rotopax gas cans, because there was a Yeti cooler in it that flew out of the trailer as it was tumbling and didn't even open or break. And there was a Rotopax, not even like actually Rotopax's Rotopax brand, their fuel packs, the like budget version, that was on the back of the trailer and took a full impact and did not leak. But the roof tent did not. It's a lot bent. You can still set it up, but it's not exactly straight.
You'll get that on those big rollovers.
Yeah, you'll have that on these bigger jobs.
Even the second time we rolled the Chang Li was directly onto the door with the Rotopax on it, and just fine. It did leak a little gas that time, but it's just because the lid was like popped a little bit. But you tighten that lid back on, good to go.
Did you guys lose any camera equipment when it rolled?
No, there was none on it.
Oh, that's good.
The camera equipment is all in like his pack or Steven's pack or something. No, it was all on the ATV, wasn't it?
Yeah, there was a GoPro on the front of the ATV, which is why I was following the convoy so close.
Right.
And I mean, overall, the noise, you can't hear the GoPro die. It had died like 2 minutes before then. I had like an hour-long clip, and I was like, oh, because everyone was like, dang, we weren't filming. I was like, boys, I was filming. I got the shot, you know, I was on the front of the quad, like, and then, yeah, you know,
didn't get the
GoPros.
shot.
Yeah.
You got to love them and hate them, but we missed that one. But we got a sick shot of it, like slow-mo of it all upside down and stuff. And I mean, you know, it was still really awesome. How do we get it out?
I took the broken off chunk of trailer tongue and I shoved it like farther inside of itself because it's a telescoping sort of design. And then I don't remember exactly how I did it, but I used a couple of wrenches. Like I put the bolt through the wrench and then used the wrench as like a splint sort of to hold it together. So I put the bolt through the eye of the wrench and bolted the crap out of it and like wedged the wrench into the corner to like, I don't remember exactly how it worked, but it worked.
I think there might have been some paracord involved as well.
Some what?
Some paracord involved as well.
Not on that one.
Duct tape?
Okay. It was just I did. That was when we went out snowmobiling with the Sea Boys that I fixed the snowmobile's trailing arm with paracord.
Yeah.
Although it was Dyneema, which is way, way stronger than paracord, but still the same concept. But yeah, so, and then we ended up hooking it to the ATV at that point instead of Mike's rig because he was farther back helping you because you were riding in the Barbie Jeep and its chain broke.
Fell off, yeah.
And we had a spare chain and master links because that thing kind of eats chains due to the flex. And so we had all that, but it was on the ATV, which had gotten ahead. And like we all got all spread out because of all the shenanigans. And so Mike was back with Edwin, ended up towing him with pushing you down the hill. Because they didn't have like his brakes also failed. I don't remember how the brakes failed. I think they might have just overheated or got something on. I don't remember what it was.
Did the chain take them out, maybe?
No, they weren't like, because when we got back, they worked. It was, I don't know if they overheated.
I think they're just cooked.
Yeah, they just got the brake fluid boiled or whatever. But yeah, so Mike was pushing you. Like they had a little strap like this long. And Mike was pushing him by the Rotopax, on the back of the Barbie Jeep. Just like going putzing along just as soon as everyone would slow down, he'd just kind of go a little bump and push him forward a little bit. And then he'd but he could also slow him down. That's why he was in front of him instead of behind, because he could also,
going downhill.
if downhill, he could keep him, And then I don't remember how I got the kernel back because its clutch eventually went completely. It was mostly downhill, but I don't remember what I did for the last little bit.
I think we just ended up taking the power wheels that worked to the trucks and bringing the trailer closer.
No.
I remember that.
Well, yes,
but it was
anyway.
It was a really nice.
It was a good adventure.
One that left you really thankful to be loaded up and going home.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
and it actually worked out great because then the next day we got home. I threw the stock clutch back in the kernel, and we got all the power wheels working again, and just all rallied around here and had a great time.
How many of the power wheels currently run and drive?
One.
Yeah, one.
Well,
the Dream Camper will run and drive.
Hey, you just have to pull the throttle cable with your fingers. And the steering's a little messed up.
Checks out.
It does run and drive technically though.
Major issues. Like
What's
how
that?
many need major work?
3. I mean, yeah. So the Camaro and the cop car have been pretty much just decommissioned. We don't really care that they kind of suck to drive, and like there's not a lot we can do with them. So we just kind of. What's that?
Are they both blown up?
No, the cop car actually has just had parts robbed from it, like just wheels and tires and spindles and stuff.
It was just a wiring issue originally with the cop car. Like it worked one time. I drove it and it just never worked again.
What is it?
It's just CRF 230 engine. So it's not like it couldn't work. It also had a lot of fuel pump issues. We couldn't get the fuel. Like it's really hard to put a fuel pump on a carburetor that's not meant to have a pump and get it to work well.
Yep.
Like you either have too much fuel or not enough fuel,
Every
and
time.
it's just a pain. So that one's just kind of it's finicky and it has no suspension, so we don't ever bother. The Camaro, that one's engine's probably pretty cooked. At King of the Hammers, Will was driving it and it had no it completely ran out of coolant, and he just like kept like driving it until it stopped running.
And that one's a 450, huh?
500, okay. But less power than a normal 450. It was a 500 ATV engine, so it was like, I mean, it was a sport quad, but not a great engine. It only had 40 horsepower or something.
Basically, almost not worth reviving.
Yeah, and also the Camaro just had so many issues from the get-go, just because I packaged so much stuff into such a small package and just did a lot of experimental stuff with steering and suspension that it works, but it's not good, and it's certainly not good off-road.
And you learned a lot that you brought to the later
exactly
It's always interesting revisiting a 2 or 3 year old project. You're like, oh my goodness, especially coming from starting 5 or 6 years ago. 3 years ago was 3 years of progression, but now current day is 6 years. Even
it's a lot. And then the Barbie Jeep, we really tried to make that thing reliable again, but the engine we put in it it was pretty trashed. It was the engine from what was the Timber Quad when we put a snow bike kit on an ATV, which that thing was pretty thrashed when we got it.
But we did a full rebuild. And then
we did a top end rebuild. Okay. There's a very big difference.
Full top end. Will gets all excited, and when Will gets excited, we're like, okay, we're grabbing the cameras, this and that. He gets all excited and just runs off. He's like, I'm just gonna check it out real quick. By the time he comes back around, Steven and I have the cameras. I'm already have the drone in the air, and Steven's up on the hill. So he gets up the hill, does one big drift, rolls the absolute snot out of it. Like he gets completely ejected. The car cartwheels multiple times and it never worked again.
I think I saw that.
And the thing is, it wasn't even there's no physical way it could be related to the rollover, but it was a remarkable coincidence because what it does is that we did get it to run again, but not for any amount of time. We got it to run for 2 minutes and then it would stop. And it's the weirdest. We replaced the whole starting system, replaced the starter, the solenoid, everything. And when you go to it, the engine's basically just seized. When you go to crank it over, it'll just until the starter wires are smoking with a brand new start. It's just got
cooked.
Something inside there but when we had it apart for the top end, there was considerable play in the connecting rod. And we decided we're going to put it back together because it'll probably run for a long time. And when it blows, whatever, we'll fix it. It turned out that long time was not long.
It was about 10 minutes.
It was about 10 minutes.
It do be that way sometimes.
Yeah. Maybe the bottom end was only surviving because it had no actual compression left and it was making no horsepower. And as soon as it made horsepower, the bearings were just done. I don't know. That engine was abused when we got it, and we abused it more.
I feel like that happens a lot. You go to maintain something, you give it all the love, it has all of the power. It's like, oh, cool. Now I have enough power to kill myself.
Yep. That's what it did. So That one would be pretty easy to get going again. We'd just have to buy a whole nother engine. Which you'd have to buy the whole ATV, because where are you going to find just the engine?
But there's a lot of good parts on those quads.
They're actually really cool. Have you ever seen one? It's a Polaris Outlaw 525. So it's a Polaris ATV sport quad, but it has independent suspension in the rear as well.
So it's like I have a Polaris Ace 570. It's like
because an Ace 570 is based on a Sportsman 570, which is not a sport quad at all. It's a utility 4-wheel drive.
Super utility.
Yeah, right.
But it's also IRS.
Yes, it is. And most utility quads are these days. But we're talking like race quad, manual clutch, 525. It's a KTM engine.
Really?
KTM built engine. It's a KTM EXC 525 engine, but with reverse instead of 6th gear.
And it's rear-wheel drive.
Rear-wheel drive only.
That's full
cool. Independent Fox, like factory Fox podiums on them.
And these are called a what?
Polaris Outlaw 525. And they're chain drive.
Yeah, you cop one of these and you have parts for all kinds of things.
Yeah. The chassis is great for putting other stuff in. The engine's great to put in. Like suspension's great. It's chain drive rear, but it's CVs. So there's a chain drive in the center and then just CVs out to the wheels.
So even if you get one with the cooked engine, you could put like a CBR engine in it.
Yep.
Just to go fast in the IRS.
Yeah. Or build the suspension into a chassis for like a, let's say like a vintage Dodge Viper fiberglass body or something like that.
Just
if you have one of those laying around. Like miniature fiber. You didn't see that in the loft last night?
Oh.
Or this morning?
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway.
All right.
Yeah. So they're really cool. And weirdly, they're super cheap. I mean, relatively speaking, like they go for like $2-3 grand all the time.
Which is
like not in great shape, but like even great shape, they're $4
for what you get.
Yeah. They're really cool. There's not the only other fully independent manual transmission sport quad rear wheel drive that I know of is the Honda TRX 700XX, which is the same thing, just with a 700 single cylinder that is absolutely gutless for a 700.
700 single cylinder. That's why it's gutless.
Yeah, we know a guy who built one of those into a Ford Bronco Power Wheels, sort of, and it's super gutless, like really disappointing levels of power. And the factory suspension is terrible on that compared to the Polaris with Fox podiums.
I have an LTR 450 and it's not terrible and it's not gutless.
Yeah, no exactly.
Very fast. Like scary fast.
Yeah.
It's fast as you'd want to go.
Yeah, not a quad guy, but like it helps you learn that balance point for the dirt bikes.
He's true. Edwin's very much a wheelie boy. You guys could.
Are you a wheelie boy?
I try to be, but I don't have like the time to refine the skills to be a quality wheelie boy.
I'm just trying to get there. Like
it's hard
on electric bikes. It's really easy because you can change the regen. So it's like you get to control your engine braking.
You don't have to use your rear brake. You can just use your throttle. That is actually really gangster.
Really and you never have to shift.
And you can. That's why all the
from full torque all the
0
time.
miles per hour to top speed.
Well, it doesn't matter if you're in the proper torque range. Like on a dirt bike, you really want to be at that where you can really pop it up. But on an e-bike, it's like 7 miles an hour, 17.
So that's why you see so many people on Instagram like dancing on the seats and stuff on e-bikes. One, you got your rear brake.
I think that's just your algorithm because I've never seen that, but I'll listen.
Okay.
That is the interesting thing about short form content, like really the whole internet in general, but especially like the short form stuff. You could think that this thing is like super popular and huge, and no one else has ever heard of it.
E-bikes are huge. No.
I just mean
you've seen people dance on the seats on like gas bikes too, and supermotos, and but it's way easier on electric bikes because you have that engine braking that's controllable. And they're lighter. I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
The torque, it's built for it.
And you can like practice way more without getting arrested.
They don't make any noise. No one looks the other way.
I know that's a huge thing. Is like doing illegal stuff on dirt bikes is hard because they're so loud.
Yeah, they are loud.
Dude, and even if it's not illegal,
it's questionable. I have an electric dirt bike in El Paso where my wife has been stuck for 3 years in the Army. Stationed there. And like I've gone all over the place there, like through all the nicer neighborhoods, just wheeling down every street. No one's ever looked at me. I ride the canals, like the drainage ditches. They're all cemented in. I just go wee, just all around town, and no one's ever looked at me because it doesn't make any noise.
It's just like a full dirt bike wherever you want to go.
Yeah,
but
I think it's short-lived though.
Yeah,
I think that.
I mean, you did get a ticket.
I got a ticket in our little town.
Did the cop know your name?
No.
Did he know who you were?
He must be a new one. I don't know. He didn't know who I was.
A lot of them do know who we are. Yeah.
And almost all of them know Will. Like this guy probably knows Will.
They do know Will. Like, but first name
Like
basis.
it's that like really.
Yes.
Oh yeah, really.
Because he's just been causing a ruckus for the last decade.
Yeah.
Or?
One of his main reasons for not wanting to live in Sandpoint is the cops.
We'll just behave.
That's what I told him, and he just looked at me like I was an idiot.
He's 23.
He's like, "What do you mean?"
I was reckless. Like maybe not 23, but I was a reckless kid.
Yeah, I mean,
until you get that one reality show. For me, I was like, all right,
yeah, 1, 2, 5, whatever it takes. You know, you get some reality checks.
Will's a different level though, because he's had a lot of reality checks, and he just plows right through. I mean, he bought his R1 in his hospital bed, basically. And then when we started this,
after getting run over on his street bike, he was already planning and looking for his,
He was texting the insurance company to see how much money he was going to get for the bike he trashed.
And looking on Marketplace to find one he could buy with the money for the bike that he...
How much is Will's insurance premium per month?
That's a really good question.
Will.
Yes.
Mine is outrageous, and it is... I don't think... My record is almost clean now. Everything is almost off of it, and I pay an outrageous amount per month for liability.
Wow. It's funny talking about Will when he's not on the podcast to defend himself, but he told me that he can't insure his new Subaru. So he has it insured as like a car that it isn't, basically. And
it's insured as a
only month to month. They won't do like a 6-month premium or whatever. And he has no coverage for himself. It's only liability. And it's still, I think, $300 a month.
It's like a fully built WRX, like first generation Impreza, but fully built with STI internals and transmission and everything. He has it registered as a 2-door Impreza L model, which is like the 1.8 liter that makes like 40 horsepower.
Is, though? Is that what the chassis is?
No, I think it started as a 2.5 RS even. I'm not sure. Maybe it is what the chassis is, but
he has some crafty ways.
Redacted.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but with the where I was going with the bike and the hospital bed, we started this whole thing, like the mustache of responsibility, because he wanted to grow this mustache, and we're like, okay, if you do anything irresponsible, you have to shave it.
And he came up with that idea. Like,
yeah, it was him,
more or less. He was like, I feel more responsible with this mustache, and if I do it, like, it was, we didn't like put that on him. We enforced it, but it was really his idea.
A big part of him does want to be better, I think. And
he just
the day, so we shaved his mustache because he messed up. And
okay, Dad.
And we actually because he after his accident, he told like everyone. I mean, this has all been told on the podcast, but he told everyone that like he was never going to ride a bike without gear again. I gave him a full MotoGP suit that we got for a thing we did years ago, and it doesn't even fit me. Full on MotoGP leathers. I gave that to him. He has it. He owns it. And the day, like, immediately he bought his R1 and rode it, like, in the snow with no gear whatsoever.
Yeah.
Like, in the rainy slush. No gear, no suit.
His girlfriend posted it on Instagram, and my wife saw it because they follow each other. And she was like, is this Will's new bike? And I was like, yes. Also, Will is wearing jeans, skate shoes, and a hoodie. But
helmet?
He did have a helmet. He does always wear a helmet.
Plus one. One.
He tells me he wears helmets because otherwise the bugs hit your face and it hurts.
It's pretty gross too.
I mean, he can say whatever he wants. Someone who has wrecked a motorcycle on the street with a helmet on, you do that once and you will not hit the street again without a helmet. It's just one of those things. You're like, well, that could have been really bad, and I was very lucky.
It's not even his big wreck wasn't even the first time he'd almost died on a bike. Like when he first started working with us, he hit a deer at 80. Flew over the handlebars, and then the bike ran him over. Went to the hospital, ended up being fine and just bruised and road rash. So
He's lucky, because I hit a raccoon at 35 in the rain. I swear, I hit a raccoon in the rain at 35, and it tore my shoulder and took me out of construction for a year.
Oh, I'm sorry. That really sucks. I wasn't laughing.
No, you're good.
Funny.
Comparison
it's funny. It's funny.
It's pretty wild. No, like my shoulder, I have permanent shoulder damage because of it, and I was going 35, so it's just crazy.
Really? Yeah, I mean,
Will's just insanely lucky.
Bikes are
He is
dangerous.
really lucky,
Bikes
but
are dangerous.
I think the dogs decided our podcast was over because
I think so.
I don't have audio anymore. I don't think you have audio anymore.
Mine is back. I just
Okay.
but that's fine.
Well,
yeah.
I guess I know you guys have channels and build really cool stuff. So where can people find you and see what you got going on?
Elevated Overland. That's Elevated Overland. We build a bunch of Toyota campers, solid axle 4Runner. My wife's V8 IFS 4Runner. I have an IFS V8 FJ62 Land Cruiser. If you're into weird stuff like that. So yeah,
I'm very into IFS. We all know that.
I know. We'll have to come up here and build some arms for it.
Yeah.
That'll be gangster. Yeah, I'm at Redline Ranch. I build a bunch of old vintage Toyotas and Subarus and just really cool small things and try and make really cool stuff.
And yes, he's my little brother. I mean, my son.
No one would ever guess that he's your little brother.
Dude, Thomas. Man, you guys look a lot alike.
You guys could be brothers.
You'll have to watch the new Humvee video.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know this isn't the last time we're going to be together. So I know there'll be more podcasts where we let you tell more stories. And we'll just try to make it happen soon because I saw what you guys filmed on the Humvee trip. The people will see it soon.
Yep.
And let's definitely do more together and keep the story going.
That'd be awesome.
All right.
And thanks for making the second half of the Humvee trip possible. I couldn't have done it without you guys.
Yo, boy, I was hype man for the first 2 days, and then I got a little tired. Then I was hype man again. Yeah, woo!
Dude, even when you're tired, you're a hype man.
That's good.
I've never been around anyone that's as consistently stoked on the kind of stuff we were doing.
We were doing cool stuff.
Stuff to be stoked about. It says a lot. So.
I'm stoked to hear it because we want to do more and more with more people and like
it's just more fun having more friends doing stuff.
Yeah, we had Clinton from Dirt Garage. He helped film the King of the Hammers video because I'm not built for the King of the Hammers.
We heard.
Exactly. But I'm like, it's cool.
Not everybody is.
To meet people in the community that can like not only help us film, but also be like really cool and really fun to hang out with. And like
good on camera, like understand filming and YouTube in general. And
almost like I'm looking for a job.
with our channel, you know, we're not trying to like blow it up and get like 100 employees and like do all these different crazy things and like turn it into a business, you know, but we are trying to grow the channel and we kind of just go for that like very slow growth, very like, you know, we don't take out debt for anything.
Yeah.
Like we just want to keep it fun.
Yep.
You know,
Have
and
some
hanging out with
genuine
guys
good
like
times.
you keeps it fun.
That was fun.
Exactly.
That's what I'm going to say.
That trip was the most fun I've had in a long, long time.
Yeah.
It was a blast, and it's just awesome to be around people that are interested in very similar stuff because
Exactly.
it's really hard
That's what
to
it's all
find
about.
that.
Subaru boys.
We all make fun of each other, like Jeeple and Toyota people, but like really, it's just people who are into machines.
I'm glad that you're into anything. If you drive a Jeep, I'm stoked. So that's all. I don't actually dislike you, but I would love some good-hearted pokes at each other.
Yeah, just don't call your tattoo a Jeep and you're chill, right?
Yeah.
He had a good time. He was enjoying it.
Dude, I was jacked off though, dude. A Jeep, a Comanche. Yeah.
You're like, I don't know about
Anyway.
that.
Well, hey, thank you for having us, guys.
All right.
It was a blast.
Awesome. Yeah, that's the Set and Bent podcast. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts, and we'll see you next time.